This is the fifth class of Perek Hamafkid, which is a Meseches Bava Metzia on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. Let's begin with a general outline of this class. Rava explained how a Shemer Chinam can be kind of the rights to kefil from the owner of the deposit before the kefil came into existence. We had a question: how can the owner of the deposit give over to the Shemer Chinam the rights to kefil if the kefil is not in existence? The rule is, Ein Adam Makna, a person cannot give over ownership of davar, an item, Shaloi Bala Ilam, that is not in existence. So how can the owner say to the Shemer Chinam, in exchange for you paying me, I'm giving you the rights to kefil, if the kefil is not in existence? And the explanation that Rava gave is, because it's as if the owner told the Shemer Chinam at the time he gave him the deposit, if the cow gets stolen and you pay me, then the cow is sold to you from now. It's not happening when the Shemer Chinam pays the owner, and it's not that the owner is giving him the rights to kefil, because the rights to kefil, the kefil is not in existence. Rather, it's happening from when the owner originally gave the shemer the cow, for example. At that time, he's telling him, if and when it's stolen and you decide to pay me, then I'm giving you ownership of the cow from now. So he's not giving him the rights to kefil. He's giving him ownership of the cow, and therefore, automatically, since the Shemer Chinam will receive ownership of the cow when he pays for it, so automatically he has the rights to kefil, because the ganav is obligated to pay kefil to the owner of the cow, which has now become the Shemer Chinam. So in this Gemara there's going to be two parts. Number one, the Gemara will present a different version, an Ikeda Amri, of what Rava holds. We'll see a slightly different answer that Rava gave. So there's going to be two versions, our original version and the new version, the Ikeda Amri. And number two, the Gemara will ask, what's the difference? What's the difference in halacha between the two versions, and answer the question. What is the difference whether we go by the first version or whether we go by the Ikeda Amri, the second version? What nafkamina on halacha is there? So let's see the Gemara now in the flowchart form. So we begin showing the flowchart up to this point where we had the question, how can the owner give the Shemer Chinam the rights to kefil if the kefil is not in existence? And we have the answer of Rava, that he's not giving him the rights to kefil. Rather, he's telling him at the time that he gave him the cow, it's as if he's telling him that if and when it's stolen and you decide to pay me, then I am giving you ownership of the cow from right now, and therefore automatically you will receive the kefil. So says the Gemara, Ikeda Amri. There's another version. Others say that Rava said it's as if the owner told the shemer, if it gets stolen and you pay me, the cow is yours from right before it was stolen. He's not telling him, if it was stolen and you pay me, the cow is yours from now. He's telling him, if it is stolen and you pay me, the cow becomes yours from right before it was stolen. So the statement that he's making, we'll see it here come up, is if it gets stolen and you decide to pay me, then the cow is yours from right before it was stolen. And then he gave it to him. So we'll just bring down a scroll to explain something. How does he get ownership of the cow? If it happens, he's telling him, if it gets stolen and you decide to pay me, the cow is yours from now. We have a kinyan that he's pulling the cow, and that kinyan gives him that ownership retroactively. Once he pays, it'll be that pulling was a pulling of a kinyan. But if he tells him it becomes yours from right before it was stolen, what action of a kinyan does he have? And he gets ownership right before it was stolen through the kinyan of chotzer, that the animal was in the property of the shemer. And the owner tells him you could get ownership, and the din is that if something's in the property of an individual, and the person who owns it wants to give ownership to that individual, that it's in his property, the receiver, the buyer or the receiver, establishes ownership through the kinyan of chotzer. So that's how he'll get ownership through chotzer. So the Gemara now asks, what's the difference between these two versions? What nafkamina and halacha comes out of it? The bottom line is that in either case, the shemer gets ownership of the cow, whether it happens from the time that the owner originally gave it to him or from right before it was stolen. Either way, he gets ownership of the cow, and therefore he'll get the rights to the kefil or the payment of dalet and hay. So what nafkamina and halacha comes out from these two different versions of the answer of Rava? And the Gemara gives two answers. Number one, the question of Rabbi Zera. So I'll bring down a scroll to explain, and then we'll elaborate. Now it makes sense why, according to Rava, the Shemer Chinam doesn't get ownership of the shearing and offspring, since they came into existence before the Ganav stole the cow. We had a question on the first answer of Rava. If it's true that the way we look at it is that it says, if the owner tells the Shemer Chinam, if and when it's stolen, and you decide to pay me, you get ownership of the cow from now. If that's how we look at it, then if so, if it's stolen and the Shemer Chinam decides to pay, it comes out that the cow or the sheep belong to the Shemer Chinam from the moment that the owner gave it to him. According to that, it would come out that the Shemer Chinam has full ownership of the animal, and that would include that if it was a sheep that had wool, that grew wool, and it was shorn, that wool should belong to the Shemer. If the animal had offspring, it should belong to the Shemer. The problem is, it says in a Brisa that the Shemer Chinam has the complete ownership over the animal, except for the shearing and for the offspring. So anything that's shorn off the animal does not belong to the Shemer Chinam, and any offspring does not belong to the Shemer Chinam. Why not, according to the first explanation in Rava, the first version of Rava's answer? However, according to the second version, it's understood because it's referring to when the wool was removed and the offspring were born between when the owner gave it to the Shemer Chinam and when it was stolen. So according to the second answer, that he only establishes ownership from right before it was stolen. So it makes sense that anything that happened beforehand belongs to the owner. So that's one answer, that now the question that Rabbi Zera asked on Rava is no longer there. Why does the owner get the shearing? And why does the owner get the offspring? Because that happened between when the owner gave it to him and from right before it was stolen. And therefore, the Shemer Chinam never established ownership. The ownership in the second version is only established from right before it was stolen. And then the Gemara presents a second answer, and that is, if it's in a swamp. If right before it was stolen from a swamp, then it'll come out that according to the first answer, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is, if the Shemer Chinam decides to pay the owner, we said that it's as if the owner tells him, if you decide to pay me, it's yours from the moment I gave it to you. So there was the kinyan of Mashicha, and the Shemer Chinam did that Mashicha when the owner gave it to him, so he receives the ownership. However, according to the second answer, that he receives ownership from right before it was stolen, and the method of acquiring ownership is through the kinyan of Chatzar, that'll only work if it was in the Chatzar of the Shemer Chinam right before it was stolen. However, if it was in a place that's hefker, in a swamp, then the Shemer Chinam will not receive ownership. So let's just bring that down in a scroll. So according to the answer that the Shemer Chinam gets ownership right before the time it was stolen, he won't get ownership if the cow was in a swamp right before it was stolen, since it's not in the Rishus of the Shemer Chinam for it to be kind of the cow for him. It's not in his Rishus, so that his Rishus has the ability to be kind of to acquire it for him. So it'll come out that in that case, the Shemer, even if he pays, will not receive ownership because there is no kinyan to establish that ownership. So to summarize, we presented an alternative version of what Rava answered. Basically, the difference is at what point and through which method does the Shemer receive ownership? Is it right from the time that the owner gave him the animal and through the method of Mashicha? Or is it later on, right before it was stolen, through the method and kinyan of Chatzar? And the difference is going to be who owns the items in between those two times. If the ownership is established from right when he gave it to him, the Shemer should own everything in between. If it was established from right before it was stolen, then it makes sense that the owner still owns whatever happened to the cow up to that point. And the other difference is, if it's the method of Mashicha, that's in place, it's not a problem. But if it's the method of Chatzar, it'll only work if it was in the Chatzar of the Shemer Chinam right before it was stolen.